Commission, welcome. We have everybody in attendance on this commission. The first item on our agenda is a public hearing. Discussion and possible action on amending the general development plan at 920 North First Street to allow for a 3-story, 32-unit multifamily residential building in a planned unit development zoning district. Before I open the public hearing, I guess I would like to give the developer an opportunity to maybe give a little spiel on this. If you feel like, I think you've joined us via WebEx, so have at it. Or don't.
I could also.
Okay. Otherwise, I'll just let our guy, expert in all things. Oh.
Well, hello. This is Jay Knetter. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I'm not sure if Mitch was going to join in or not. I wasn't sure about. I think he had a conflict, but as the architect, I know that we've been before you before with some options of an apartment or a phase one. After his phase one completion here. So we're coming to you with a condo development, and I'm sure Brad can probably give the overview with the images. I am here to help answer questions as we need to, and just wanted to make myself available.
Sure. Maybe I'll kick it over to you, Brad, and you can give us a little, don't know what else to call it, spiel.
Yeah, thanks. Let me see if I can get close to the mic here. And Sam wrote the staff report, so I'm going to steal some of his his words, I guess. But so what's on the screen now is the previous general development plan for this area. It shows the phase one, the River Life apartments that have been built already. That's the lot one on this map. And as part of the phase one, there was we had reached agreements with the developer to do a phase two, which was a residential project south of this building. We hadn't really amended the zoning until now because we didn't really have specifics on what that project would look like. Before, this plan just showed, future development. Actually, the streets and parking lots have changed since then on the phase one. But now we're in phase two and looking to get the zoning straight for the phase two condo project. So we're just setting, the use, first of all, again, that wasn't really established before. It just said future use from a zoning perspective. Again, this was agreed to in a developer agreement, but not from a zoning perspective. So the general plan that's on the agenda tonight is to set the use, the general site plan for the area, the density of the development, and things of that nature. They'll have to come back with a specific plan that has more details that we'd like to see, but just from a general perspective, we feel they have enough here for us to weigh on to send to City Council for them to approve the general plans, and again, knowing that they'll come back with more detailed plans. So this rendering is the site plan as originally drawn up. Again, it's a condominium building. There's some building elevations we can look at later, but it's on the river, parallel with the river and the trail. And, it's in that same area that had been identified previously. It is a 3-story building with underground parking. And they'd be looking at lot 4. We'd be creating this new lot right now. It's basically just one big lot down there. So we'll have to divide this up, and they would get just the property that the building and the ramp and their refuse container is on. We'd maintain the right-of-way for parking and access to the building. Again, as part of the agreement and what we had done previously with the River Life Apartments. So that's kind of where we are now. Again, there's more details to be worked out. The building actually may shift slightly, but we can address that, I guess, when they come back with the specific plans. We're working with a water main in that area that we don't necessarily want to build on the top of, so they've already kind of looked at maybe shifting the building north. That shouldn't affect much other than the placement of the building, the density, the use, the building elevations, everything is pretty much going to stay the way it is drawn here. The driveway access will be a little different, but we're still working out those details. So in the packet, we're building elevations, again, 3 stories above ground, 1 level of parking below ground. You know, the amount of parking we feel is accurate, you know, for what they would need from a zoning perspective, and, you know, it's not too much necessarily. It's certainly sufficient for what they would need, so, and it's flexible. Again, we're maintaining, as the city, the right-of-way or the parking lot area, so, you know, if we feel it's too much, we can cut back. If we feel it's not enough, you know, we can add to it. Again, this is sort of a little bit in flux right now, but again, the flexibility is there for us to either add or subtract some of the parking on the outside. The inside stuff is pretty much set, so. I don't know, did I miss anything that you wanted to cover? Sam did go through the criteria for approval. I think he did a pretty good job of laying that out, and I feel at this stage that, you know, it's kind of what we expected all along. You know, it's in line with that, and we'll continue, I guess, to work with them on more details.
I was just going to add, I think the developer mentioned that when you purchase a condo at this level, the expectation is that you get 2 parking spots, and this does allow for that, plus additional parking for people who are just parking along the river for the day.
Cool, thank you. All right, so before we start talking, I guess I will open up the public hearing for this. Public hearing is now open. If anybody would like to make any comments about this general development plan, you can feel free to approach the podium, and you'll get 3 minutes. I'll ask for a second time if anybody's interested in, I'm laughing because there's nobody here, but I'm still going to ask 3 times if anybody would like to approach the podium and give us any information on this general development plan at 920 North First Street. All right, last time before we close this public hearing, if anybody would like to talk about this general development plan. All right, public hearing is closed. It's now on us. I guess maybe before we start talking, if there are questions, we can ask those. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. I have a motion by Bergman, assuming we accept this general development plan. Yes.
Second.
And we have a second by Vulcan. Any discussion? Yes, Mr.
I have a
Peckham.
question. Actually, 2 of them. Just out of curiosity, I was wondering if Mr. Knetter or maybe staff could tell us, just curious, if all 32 units are going to have some water exposure, rivers, or if they're going to be just the west-facing ones are going to be able to see the water.
I can certainly answer that. Right now, not every unit has the ability to view the river. We do have east and west-facing units, but we also focused on the corner units. So you've got kind of the southwest corner, southeast corner. That southeast corner will have some visibility, as well as the northeast corner. So there's just a few that are kind of in the center of the east elevation that would not have direct view.
Okay, thank you. I don't think that would have any bearing on our approval of it. Just curious. Second question is probably for staff. On page 3 of the packet, under the figure 1, illustrative concept from 2015 plan, there's a line that says, subdividing the property now rather than waiting for future development assists this property in closing the site's brownfield requirements, allowing for condominium units to be sold. I'm wondering if we could get an explanation of closing the brownfield requirements. Is that for the entire River Life area, or just for that property, and what does it mean when you close the requirements?
So, you know, this is a former brownfield site. There's actually, I don't know if I can find the map, but the DNR sites, the brownfield sites are different than you know, the property lines were changed, I guess. The developer was looking to parcel off just that portion of the site for their building, if you look at this one, just so that they would assume the environmental liability just for their building, not for the whole site. That would include property that's outside their site. Otherwise, I mean, the DNR would look at it as, previously it was one big site, essentially. It was called the Hammer Blow property. And that was remediated to a certain extent, but not necessarily completely closed out, because that closure happens when things are redeveloped and put back into kind of a permanent state. So, you know, this is dividing the property so that they're responsible for their lots, the city's responsible for our lots, a future developer would be just responsible for that, versus if it wasn't subdivided like this, they may be responsible for property that's not necessarily theirs.
So that's just the building footprint then?
Well, this lot 4 is kind of L-shaped, so it's this red line here, which would include the building, and then the ramp that goes down into the parking, and then the dumpster area. You know, in River Life, in the first apartment development, there was some discussion. The ramp is actually, I believe, on city property, and there was some, you know, back and forth about, well, is the city maintaining that? Is the I mean, the city doesn't necessarily want to be maintaining someone's ramp, someone's private driveway, essentially. That's not necessarily good for us or them, so I think we're okay with giving them that so that they can just maintain their own driveway, essentially, and keep their dumpster on their property versus
Okay.
moving it onto city property and back and forth and stuff like that.
When this building is complete and people are beginning to occupy it, all of the brownfield requirements the DNR has for us, or whoever owns it, will be satisfied.
They will work with the DNR directly to make sure that they're doing things that satisfy the DNR
Very
in
good.
terms of a
Thank you.
cap management plan, I guess they call it, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Neal?
Thank you. Just a couple of little things. So this isn't really First Street anymore, right? Isn't this like River Drive or something, or North River?
I think it turns to River Drive right at Fulton, right on the north. So I think it is First Street to the south
Oh,
of
okay.
Fulton, and River Drive to the north of Fulton.
Okay. Regarding parking, you know, there's at the very least a 2-to-1 ratio of cars to apartments. So there's, you know, extra parking available for public use. This is different than the Phase 1, right? Because that parking lot is, I don't know what the ratio is, but that's all designated for River Life Apartments, correct?
Correct, yep. And I guess the ratio is a little different because some of these units there's more 3-bedroom units, so you're actually allowed more parking for 3 bedrooms than you are for 2 or less. So there is a little extra that goes along with having more 3-bedroom apartments. But yeah, and I think some of these spaces, we haven't worked out the details yet, and this will be, you know, in the developer agreement that needs to be amended, but, you know, there will be some designated for
Okay.
property, just like River Life. But then, if we go with this design, again, this isn't necessarily final, but there are some extra ones for public, and, you know, we don't want to overbuild it necessarily, but, you know, having a few extra for public might not be a bad thing.
It looks like if we do need to shift the building north, as you mentioned earlier, that will affect the parking configuration, because everything shifts with it, so you might lose some of that overage. Right?
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
We do have an early rendering of what that would look like, and basically what changes is just the driveway angle. Instead of coming into the side, it would come in at the bottom of the building. So theoretically, we could keep it pretty close to what it looks like now, just changing where the driveway access is.
And then like let's just say the front yard, you know, on the east side of the river walkway, that's going to be grass and landscaped and whatnot. It's not going to be closed off, is it?
No, it will be landscaped. They will come back with a landscaping plan, so we
Okay,
can certainly-
and basically, like, somebody might want to sit down on the grass, they're not trespassing and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we will have some space, outside of the trail, to the east of the trail for our landscaping for lights and a couple trees that I think.
Maybe
are there.
benches or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's not gonna, their private property isn't gonna go up, exactly to the trail. There's gonna
Okay.
be a little bit. But yeah, that space, their yard is, I don't know if we have renderings of that on the elevations or not, but.
Well, while I have the microphone,
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and make a motion to approve if that's okay now.
We already had a motion to
Oh, we
approve
did?
in a second,
Oh, we
so
did?
we're
Okay.
talking.
All right.
I'm glad to, we heard somebody on the phone, if you'd like to maybe answer or respond.
Yeah, this is Jay Knetter again. I just have one quick comment. With regard to the parking, and, we have 45 stalls of enclosed parking on the lower level, and with 32 units, I think, the idea and intent would be we have plenty of parking, but I do want to keep in mind and maybe remind the commission that there may be visitors that do come, to this unit, so we may need some overflow just for visitors of the residents. So we'll need to balance that, I think, when we look at the counts.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I guess just one, and we worked with Brian from the fire department on this. It does accommodate a truck movement through there, which is why it is kind of a funky shape. There's a turning radius for a truck to get around there, in and out. So at first, I think early concepts, we didn't necessarily have that wide of a turning radius, but after we looked at it, after REI, the engineering firm, looked at it, they wanted to have that ability to come in and out with a larger truck, so.
Any other comments? Yes.
Just one, approximately how much farther north are you anticipating the footprint to end up because of the water main?
I can try to pop open another design. Again, this is preliminary. We haven't necessarily discussed it, but it could be a significant amount. So this is kind of turned sideways from the other one. This would be the building footprint here. So again, previously the driveway would have come in on this side, but this is showing it coming in on the bottom. The water main is this line right here. And this, I believe they're wanting to shift it a little closer to the water main than is being shown here, so it's not all the way up to the north. But it would move on the site a fair amount.
Yeah, I think ideally, if I can add, ideally, I think we could almost come up with a somewhat of a mirrored image of what the Phase 1 apartment adjacency is to the drive that enters the site, and we would basically create a vista between the two buildings that would, have the river in the backdrop. Shifting it to the north, we've all been on the design team, including the developer, have been used to having it to the south. But I do believe that there could be some benefits actually in shifting it a little bit to the north. As Brad said, we would like to discuss more openly the 25-foot distance between the water main and the building. And, there may be some opportunities for us to, I think, get what we're looking for.
Yeah, Mr. Neal.
So where does this leave, the possible proposed amphitheater thing, which is mentioned in the agreement and was in original, concepts that we saw and whatnot?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is, well, go ahead, Jay.
Well, you could take it too, but we've talked openly about that, and with the building shifted to the north, you actually get a kind of a nice intersection of the bridge that crosses the river and the river walk, and then the radius that goes to the east, and it ends up being kind of a nice node, if you will, of where something like that could still take place on the south, and it may make. I know parking wouldn't be quite as convenient there, but most people that would, it could just be kind of a nice activity node for a music venue or something informal like that to happen there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, oh, go ahead.
Well, going back to the site plan, so we are looking at building on Outlot 2, there's a trail that would follow the old railroad tracks right from the bridge to Barker Stewart Island, and then turn and go straight out to First Street. And like Jay was saying, that's kind of a new node that would be created there with the bridge and the trails. So that is a different spot, but I think there's advantages. It's, we're looking at putting the old stone mill building on Barker Stewart Island. That would be just across the river from there. So there's, some synergies there potentially too.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? I am not seeing any, so I think we are ready to vote. All of those in favor of amending the general development plan at 920 North First Street to allow for a 3-story, 32-unit multifamily residential building in a planned unit development zoning district can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously and will be at council next week, 8:10. Thank you very much for joining us. Next item on our agenda is next meeting date and future agenda items for consideration. Next meeting date, August 24th,
Yeah, just to note, we did push that back a week because well,
'Cause
for
it's a
couple
special.
different reasons. Yep.
Yep.
But, so it's on your calendar for the 4th Tuesday of the month, I believe.
Okay, next item on our agenda is adjournment. I would okay, I've got motions and seconds, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.